Thank you. Thank you. So now you know something new today, and you'll go tell your friends. Today I know the African Union song, right? I'll do the same. So, just to start off, I'd like to greet our esteemed guests who have graced us with their presence today, and to you students who defy the odds and say to yourselves, "I'll come and I'll go listen." Even though maybe a lot of them or a lot of other students would have not have seen value in this, but you did, and you came here. So give yourselves a round of applause. So I'll introduce our guests as time goes on the program. But now I just want to give a few reflections of day two. Now, this is where I am giving the program director's remarks, and Nolwazi Mabalega from the Department of Recreation and Tourism, and I'm based in the Richards Bay campus. So yesterday we had quite an interesting day, full of great reflections and contributions from both students and our panelists. We opened with a message of support from Mr. Sikore, who is SRC Deputy President. I'm sure you know him. We had also different, student networks presenting here about different programs that are available for you students. We had the Sosonge Badi program, we had the SASU program, and we have Sabia. So these are all student-centered networks that are available for you. So please, Mr. Angela Mkengo is here, and Mr. Kweli Shamase. So if you're not here yesterday, pull them by the side and ask them what were the conversations about. We then had panelists, Mr. Mulawuti Wasikage, that these were our panelists for the discussion that took place. We had Samuel Baker, we had Mr. Tabang Lawrence Mkize, and we had Mr. Tolo Sibaya. And they were, tackling quite an intense question where it said, what role can be played by the organization or institution that you represent in achieving the Africa that we want? So this was quite an interesting dialogue, and students also had quite a lot to say here, and you could see the passion coming through. We then also had different funding institutions that shared various funding programs. We had the Fulbright Scholarship, we had Campus France, we had DARD, we had Swedish Scholarship, we had NRF, we had DHET, we had SANOD, and we had the Consulate General of India. And Mr. Mbete closed for us yesterday. So those are my remarks for today and for yesterday's program. And today we look forward to more engagements. So I think our colleagues at CMD lapho eNgoma sizophakamisa uDr. T. Ngokazi, who is the Dean of Students, for a welcoming and purpose. So I think if singaphakamisa njengeNgoma nje eshoyo nje. You know, if we can just do, you know, Jay, maybe you can come here and share a dance for us. Who knows, you know? So if we can just give us Jay, a nice song for him, it says that, you know. So as well as a good thing, but maybe I'm my 80s. Hi, welcome to Musa.
Ngithatha short indaba. Thank you very much. Program Director of the day, management of the university under the leadership of the Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Mtose, Director in the Office of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Mashia, distinguished guests, and scholars that are present here in this conference, colleagues in general, and the student population. I've been requested to welcome you, which I do now, in this auspicious occasion today, which is the third day. I was entangled in some other university commitments. I couldn't join you, Professor Mashia, from day first. And I don't feel well. But anyway, thank you very much for accommodating me today. I just prepared, I'm not making any presentation, but rather just a short note to welcome you. Colleagues and students, we welcome you once again in the third day of the conference, and hoping that you continue providing us with a wealth of knowledge, varying perspective on certain areas, and insight on matters related to the internationalization of higher education. It is important to relate the internationalization of higher education in today's world to the original roots of the university, and to place the present developments in historical perspectives as well. At the same time, it is again important to recognize the development of internationalization in the emerging and developing worlds, and the colonial and imperialistic context that influence and continue to influence internationalization of higher education in various regions of the world. Many scholars have varying interpretations and approaches in attempting to achieve the essence of liberating Africa and her people from the shackles of colonialism and its impetus. UNIZILE has taken a bold step in that regard and entered the fray through its vision and embarked on a trajectory of positioning the university as a node for African thought. In my view, the latter vision encapsulates befittingly the culture, the concept of internationalization of higher education in various ways. As Denson, Loveday, and others averse, internationalization increases awareness among students about global issues, including cultural diversity, mobility, and so on. And those on their own open the minds of our students and citizens in general. As DeVet, Sehole, and other seasoned scholars have said, the future of Africa is too important to be left to governments and its institutions alone. On realizing the Agenda 2023 in Africa, the chapter draws attention for the need to make conscious effort to ensure that ordinary people and national level public and private institutions own the process of creating the Africa we want. To achieve this, the chapter further reinforces the need for the Agenda 2063 to be integrated into existing educational system. It discusses the educational development nexus and argues that to achieve radical transformation and as envisaged in the agenda, education is the golden key. Program Director, we continue to learn and learn oppressive practices and advance in getting more insight on various areas of internalization as they affect us. I trust today's activities and presentation will continue to edify and equip us better as we immerse ourselves in issues around this very important concept that affects us in higher education. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Moraz. I think, having put under so much pressure, you tried. Yeah, welcome students. We're happy to see you as you come in. Just make your way to the back. We appreciate to see you come in, and just let your friends know around campus that they are missing out. Yeah, we are about to get started. Okay, I just want to confirm with our ICT personnel, is Helen online already? Yeah, okay. Our next speaker is virtual, Miss Helen Bachmann-Kartel. She is the coordinator at SASU, and she's at Uppsala University in Sweden. So she's just going to share some insights and some message of support for us. So Helen, if you can hear us, you can just unmute. I see you here. If you can just unmute, and can you hear us?
Hello, I can hear you very well, but I can't share my screen or start my video for some reason.
Okay, while we still have a bit of an audibility issue, we can just give you some time to share. We're not seeing anything from our side as yet, but we can hear you. Maybe if you can just speak a bit louder. Yeah, something's coming through.
Okay, do you see the screen now?
Yes, we do. Maybe you can just put it on slideshow. Where's the sound coming from?
Does it work
Thank you
now?
so much. Just give me a second, Helen. We're just trying to sort out the sound that is coming through, so we don't want you to be disturbed. Okay, it seems to be fine now. Yeah, you can go ahead. We look forward to hearing from you.
Is it possible to share my video as well? It says that it's blocked.
Oh, you have a video that is embedded on this presentation?
No, I just wanted to show my face and say hi.
Oh, you'd like to play a separate video?
No, I just wanted to say hi to everyone. But no, I can go ahead and start if.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Helen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So hi everyone, my name is Helen Beckman-Cartall. I'm not sure if you can see me, if you can see my video, or if you only can see my screen, but nevertheless, it's very nice to be able to be here, even though I'm virtually here.
Helen,
Yes.
I think there's a video that is playing on your side.
It's fine.
It says you cannot start your
No,
video
you-
because the host has
No,
stopped.
you can continue. The problem was on our end. We apologize. You can continue. Thank you.
Do you want me to start the video in some way?
You can continue with your talk.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
When I saw the video now over the the hall where you are now, I got so jealous because it gave me such a throwback back to when I've been at UniZulu, which I actually will tell you a little bit about in the end of this brief presentation. But it's an honor to be able to speak on the third day of your International Education Week. And I will share a bit of what SASUF is, the South Africa Sweden University Forum that UniZulu is part of. And this is one of all the international engagements that your university is part of. So I'm happy to share some insights for the ones that are not aware of how this project works. But as said and as introduced, my name is Helen Beckman-Cartall, and I work as the project manager for this collaboration. But with that said, you cannot do a big collaboration like this alone. So I love to start with showing this picture with all these 40 different university logos, because this collaboration consists of 40 partner universities, so all the 26 public universities in South Africa and 14 from Sweden.
Yeah.
And UniZulu is, of course, one of them. And at each and every of these universities, it's one main contact person who is responsible for like the local communication sharing and being like the local SASUF coordinator. So my job is to be the little spider in the net, but I just wanted to highlight that nothing can happen without all of these contact persons at all of these universities. But if we're about to describe SASUF in a nutshell, so it's a collaboration between all these 40 universities. It was initiated in 2018, and since then we've achieved quite a lot. And it's administratively coordinated by Uppsala University in Sweden, where I am based. I've tried to get my way to be established in South Africa for quite some time, but apparently my employer wants me here. But this collaboration works with the main aim of strengthening the collaboration between our two countries in research and education, and jointly working towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And one of the main pillars of this collaboration is that it's funded from both the partner universities by STINT, which is a funding agency in Sweden, and Department of Higher Education and Training, and the National Research Foundation in South Africa. So to make sure that already from the start that it's a mutual co-owned project, that it's not a South African project, it's not the Swedish project, it's actually a joint project with money from both sides and efforts from both sides. And we've worked with the main strategy of Research and Innovation Weeks, which is the big weeks, the big events happening annually where we meet and pair up a bunch of researchers and students and university management representatives. And we also announced joint calls for seed funding, which is a quite clear motivation on when you meet someone new at these weeks, how you actually can concretize your ideas and your thoughts and see, can our joint efforts actually fly? So then we give them a possibility to apply for seed funding. And just to briefly say how these weeks, these research and innovation weeks are structured. So we start with the Monday and the Tuesday, depending on what is the host country, whether we are in South Africa or in Sweden, we have the Monday and the Tuesday free for bigger events locally happening all across the host country. So this year we had a big research and innovation week in Sweden in May, where we had a number of researchers and students from University of Zululand participating. And then we give all the researchers and students a possibility to travel to these different locations all across Sweden and pick and choose more or less what events they are in the mood for. Just to give a concrete example, we had one satellite event focused on ending childhood obesity. So then everyone can pick and choose if they're interested in that specific field. So then they travel to that part of Sweden, diving deep into those discussions with the people interested in the same fields. And after that, for the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, everyone travels to the big joint event, which is circulated around parallel sessions and workshops and so on. And it's actually not just for the researchers track. We have one track for the student participants, one track for the researchers, and also one track for the vice chancellors and deputy vice chancellors, because all of these levels are actually very much needed if you're going to have a well-functioning international collaboration. So this is just to briefly show you how we have packaged all the sustainable development goals. So we've worked within these 6 themes, and I saw briefly when the video showed the room that I saw Prof. Kolanise is there as well, and she was one of the champions for the social transformation, theme number 3, initially in SASEF when this all started. So I'm sure that Unnati can share quite a lot of thoughts from her end as well. But just to also conceptualize this all, that all in all, since 2018, we've connected more than 4,000 researchers, students, university leaders, and funding agencies in these workshops. I mentioned this thing with the seed funding, and in total, we have funded 109 collaborative projects where we can see representatives from all the 40 partner universities. And one of the eligibility criteria to even be eligible for the funding is to find 2 South African universities and 2 Swedish universities to send in the application with. Because if you do this alone, then you won't get the benefits of collaborating, both within your country, but also across the country borders. So we've also funded 13 virtual collaborative courses. And what we can also see, since we worked a lot with the Department of Higher Education and Training and the National Research Foundation, that it has been a big initiative to involve all South African universities and actually increase the collaboration among South African universities as well, because that is also a big part of internationalization, to not work in silos. So we can see since 2018, about 75%, actually a little bit more than that, of all the funded projects includes HDI universities as well. And we can see that joint publications has increased quite a lot during these years as well. And one thing that we're very proud of is the student network, the student track in this collaboration, which is something that really have been growing like from bottom up. So we have student representatives from almost all the 40 partner universities at the moment. And these students, they have themselves actually developed a rotating chairmanship. It's student coordinators, 2 in Sweden and 3 in South Africa. So we have from University of the Free State, Central University of Technology, and also UniZulu. And then we have Malmö University and Umeå University from the Swedish side. So these students, they meet on a regular basis, have joint events, both online and in person, which they spread from their different Facebook and Instagram pages, but also WhatsApp groups. And these events are partly the coffee break sessions. I saw also that Andile is in the room. So Andile, now I'm outing you there that you need to share more information in person of all of this. So, but these coffee break sessions, they are monthly meetings where different focus areas that the students themselves have decided on are discussed from both the Swedish and the South African end. For example, when we talk about food security, what is food security from a Swedish and South African standpoint? And what I also want to say is that the student network hosted their own satellite events and their student summits and workshops during both the Research and Innovation Week in South Africa last year and in Sweden this year. And it actually has developed quite a lot. So now it's not only one student representative at the different universities. Now it has developed. So the big group of students in the white shirts, that's from University of the Free State with their local little SASUF student network group. And as you can see, both on Andile there with the black blazer and the white shirts, that this has been so established at the universities that it's even SASUF clothes, SASUF blazers to brand this locally at the universities. And with that said, I actually want to end here with saying that it's partly thanks to University of Zululand that I even have this job and that I have this experience and why I am where I am. Because in 2019, I got connected to Prof. Kolanisi as my contact person. And so I spent, was it around 4 months, 3-4 months at the Kwatlangezwa campus, and I stayed at the guest house, and I met all of these fantastic people who I got to develop the curiosity of international relationships together with. And it's very much thanks to UniZulu that I even got into the track of South Africa-Sweden relations, and now I get the possibility to be able to pave the way for them. So I think I should just stop there and not be too lengthy. I think I passed my time, but I hope now that you've gotten a little bit of a hint of what UniZulu is engaged in across the world, and also what students can actually pave the way for. So thank you so much for inviting me to have this brief presentation, and I hope that you will have a fruitful day 3 of your event.
Thank you so much, Helen. Yeah, a round of applause, please. Thank you. And I think also seeing this visual sort of emphasize, the collaboration and the relationship that you built with the students. And we heard about SASUF yesterday from the students themselves, and they all had good things to say about it. So congratulations, and we really hope that such collaborations move forward that really understand and respect our context as well. So before I call Prof. Kolanisi to tell us more about the Siphilelanje Entertainment Festival, I want to hear from you students. We hear I'm talking about Agenda 63, but do you know some of the goals of Agenda 63? What are some of the goals? of Agenda 63. There's quite a number of them. Come on. Just give me one or two. What are some of the goals? I can give you one, a peaceful and secure Africa. Come on. Yes? Is there a roving mic? We have a very confident lady here in front who would like to share one goal. I know Google, I'm seeing you Googling there. No Google, no Google. I'm seeing you Googling there at the back. Tell him what's one of the goals?
I Nobile Mthalane, believe that the goal for Agenda 2063 is African unity.
Okay, give her a round of applause. I mean, there is unity somewhere there. I mean, I think it's only unity that can drive us forward. Is there anyone else who'd like to give it a try? Another goal? What are the goals? There's a number of goals. Is there anyone else who'd like to give it a try? It doesn't have to be word for word, but yeah, there's a gentleman there. There's a very bold gentleman there. Be bold and stand. Let's see you.
My name is Andre Damin.
Okay.
The point of Agenda 63 is high standard of living.
Allah. Okay, I mean, I'll give that to you because we have a goal here that says decent work for all. And I think we can only achieve that if we all, have decent work and we're able to adhere to what you're saying. So thank you so much. Prof. Kolanisi, if you can just make your way to the podium to unpack the Siphila Kanje education, entertainment. I think I saw the choir. Is the choir here? The choir is not here. I think I saw. Okay, cool. Okay. So after Prof. Kolanisi has spoken, then we will call Usianda Imbongi to come and give us an item. Over to you, Prof.
Halala siyanibongela. Asanga sizokonwaba namhlanje, it's that day. Halala siyanibongela. Halala siyanibongela. Halala siyanibongela. Halala siyanibongela. Hayi kaloku ingoma mayise. Hayi. Halala siyanibongela. Halala siyanibongela. Halala siyanibongela. Halala siyanibongela. Sanibonani. Hayi ngiyabona ukuthi apha nje kuyatshisa andazi ezantsi. Kuyabanda ezantsi. Kuthiwa is not make sure ezantsi. Kuthiwa nifunani? Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Program Director. I-Chancellor, ne-Chancellor le University in absentia, Sicela ukubingelela. Ungqongqoshe nombhexeshi weNyuvesi yaseZululand Professor Mthosi. Isikhukhukazi esifukame indwalutho zalapha eMzantsi Afrika neza kwamanye amazwe njengoba sesibonile nakuHelen who was once here osandokhuluma. Sibulisa nesigqeba asebenzisana naso umphathi weYunivesithi ukukhokhela isizukulwana sese-Afrika. I am making a reference to the devices of the university. Sithi molweni sanibonani kwi-executive ngokwezihlalo zenu ezahlukeneyo. Ngokukhethekileyo sicela ukubingelela ihhovisi likaProfessor Mashiya eliphethe lo mcimbi umhle kangakanana. Siceleke ukuthi-ke sanibonani siyabulela nakwaba asebenza nayo Prof. I-colleagues zethu esizimesileyo namhlanje, i-students zase-University of Zululand. Sicela ukuthi molweni sanibonani dumelang, good morning, namkelekile. Kuthiwe andize ndizokunikeza a brief history of why are we here today. Sithetha ngesiphila kanje Edutainment Festival. Today we celebrate once more an event that is proudly brewed at the University of Zululand as part of reclaiming our identity and our pride as Africans. This event is an output of a South African University Forum that is SASUF, who Helen was referring to earlier on here. It is a collaboration between South African universities as well as the Sweden universities. Right, as she mentioned, it started in 2018. And then we were one of the people who were also championing the Sustainable Developmental Goals, which she has mentioned, which is the agenda, Global Agenda 2030. Right, and then, so when we were funded for the project, one of the things that we're supposed to do was to go to the communities and do research as well as community engagement, because we wanted to talk to the Sustainable Developmental Goals. Who knows how many Sustainable Developmental Goals do we have? How many do we have? Who can guess? Yes. There are 17. Thank you so much. Right. So we had to champion some of those goals. And then in 2019, then we realized that when we have our research with communities, we really committing some kind of a crime, because most of the time, Professor Gogo, we go there to exploit, to go and take information, knowledge, and expertise of our communities. Because I'm saying we are now committing crime because we hardly find time to actually go back and say, this is what we have actually acquired from you, and maybe this is the way forward. So then as part of saying, what mechanism can we actually now come up with in order to make sure that we bridge this gap and close this door? Because now, remember this collaboration, we are bringing people from abroad, but we are going to be the ones who are left with the very same communities. Then this is where now we said, what else can we come up with? And then this is one of the ideas of actually now saying, this is how we can now link up with our communities and give back to the communities. Right. And then as this mechanism, now we came across to what is called Edutainment Festival. So what is Edutainment Festival? Edutainment Festival is a festival that is now about knowledge exchange and information. So we decided that when we go and visit the communities, some of the issues that are emerging, we need to sort of identify them and put them in a box. And then during this kind of an event, we can look back and say, okay, what is it that we identified, especially if it has to do with livelihoods as well as economic development? Then we can now bring the different stakeholders, such as your government, your university community, the students themselves, under one roof to say, asikobelelana kanjani so that i-problems esinazo esihleli nazo singaziboni ziyinkinga nje that continue to be a problem, singatholi i-solutions, because at times masihamba siya laphayana siya singaphethanga oko kufanelekileyo. So now can we create a platform where we are going to be able to actually now exchange knowledge? So that was one of the primary reasons of coming up with edutainment festival, right? Okay, so now we are saying this is now one of the ways of saying this is a holistic approach, because we are actually now saying we are promoting research, but this research must not be now seem to be one-sided, because the very same research is supposed to be feeding into teaching and learning. And then the teaching and learning also becomes part of what? Of community engagement. So this is now why we are calling it as one of the examples of a holistic approach. Then we also said learning does not only happen in a confined classroom space. So we need to understand that learning can happen anytime, any place. And that is why now we talk about edu part of this entertainment. But we know as Africans, our learning happens through music, through dance, through storytelling, through art, through dialogue. Therefore, we needed also to set up that kind of an environment. Hence, we call it tainment, and is composed of this, now we call it a festival. So this festival is a revival of the indigenous method of learning that actually resonates with who we are as African people. And then we all know that when we are also engaging in learning as African people, we become so vibrant. We engage actively and we do things collectively. Hence, today we are all here gathered because we want to exchange knowledge. We want to share our frustrations. We want to see how can we navigate our path towards achieving the 2063 goal. Then when we had now our edutainment, we needed to call it a name. In an African context, everything is given a name. Even if it doesn't have something, they will call it, like in Xhosa, we will have what we call isizathu. Then isizathu in the Xhosa event, you now say, okay, I just want to celebrate, but I don't want to name it and say, I'm celebrating this, I'm celebrating everything. Then you're saying, I have isizathu to celebrate. So this is why we are also gathered here, because we have isizathu to be gathered here and learn from each other. And that is why now, as part of the internationalization, we are also saying we can learn something from each other going towards achieving our 2063 goal. Then now this is where the Siphila Kanje concept emerged. I must give credit to Professor Evans, who was in the Human Social Sciences at the time, who actually gave us the name of Siphila Kanje. So Siphila Kanje, this is how we live. And in 2019, we started now to have this concept, and then we celebrated it actually here at Bekuzulu in 2019. And I remember that time we were working very closely with the Creative Arts Department, Prof. Mashia. And one of the songs that was composed by Mr. Maravatsanga Ugift was that amasiko ethu anyamalala njengamazolo. I think that time, that was even before Nodding for African Thought. But that is what the song that was composed, that was linked to the launch of Siphila Kanje when we started. To say, asibuyele emasisweni because we cannot let our traditions to just disappear. So, and then in 2020, we all know the pandemic, we could not do anything. In 2021, the celebration moved from the university to Obanjeni and the Umtunzini community. We were hosted by the Siyasisiza Trust. And then Saya Lapo and the university community actually supported that event. Saya Lapayana, and we celebrated. It was beautiful. We are having our industry partners as well as the community exchanging knowledge. In 2022, we could not host, I think last year it was 2023. We could not host because I think there were some challenges. And then in 2020 or 2021, we were joined by the Recreation and Tourism department led by Dr. Ngosi. And since that 2021, we've been sister departments. We work together a lot. So this has actually even shown improvement between the engagement between our students, because we tend to create silos, and these silos are anti-Africanism. Kuthiwa ayikho intoni inkomo edla yodwa. This principle is a very powerful principle, because awukwazi ukuba ngumuntu wedwa. When you graduate, you walk out of the university, you will not be by yourself. You will have to work with other people. So you cannot say I'm an agriculturalist and then you don't work with a person from anthropology, because you need to understand social issues that are affecting the production. So it's important for us to also understand that we need to also try to build on this interfaculty, interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary teaching and learning, research and innovation, and so forth. So in 2022, this is now where the magic happened. This is where Professor Mashia lended us an ear. What is it that you are saying, Kolanis? And then we tried to explain. And she said, you are going to be my children. We are adopting you. Siphila Kanje is going to be an annual event that is celebrated from my office, that is going to be engaging the University of Zululand to actually showcase our pride, who we are, and what we can be, and what we can contribute as Africans. Halala, halala sabongela, halala, halala sabongela, halala, halala sabongela.
Halala sabongela, halala, halala sabongela.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then in 2024, we decided to do it differently. Instead of inviting the community, but to showcase some of the items that have been babies of these Siphila Kanje projects. So, and then one important factor that I need to mention is that Mr. Mzileni from the FCAL, you see now it started with Faculty of Science, Agriculture and Engineering. P with Human Social Sciences. Then now EAP with Faculty of Commerce, Administration and Law. We are now joining hands with the Entrepreneurship Club. Later on, they will be showcasing the ideas of entrepreneurship and innovation that exists among the students of university community. So after our lunch is going to be the festivities where people are telling us what is it that they are doing, where they are doing, because we cannot actually just be dreamers thinking that the economy of Africa will just boom without us playing. We need to create an environment where we can actually play in our own university, As you can see, we have displayed already the innovation, which showcasing our identity, our innovation, our own knowledges. So we are now going to be sort of engaging later on, making sure that our students, they are also showcasing what they can contribute towards achieving the 2063 goals. So thank you very much, AFCAL, for joining this year. We really appreciate you. Then sithi zigatshe ngobuhle bakho Africa. Sizigatsha kanjani? Some people will be asking to say, okay, uyakhuluma bathi, what is this concept based on? We are saying, okwethu ukubuyela emandulo. We are basing it concept yobuntu. Because if we are talking about the Africa we want by 2063, this cannot be achieved without rethinking our education system. We need to infuse our values so that we can be able to empower the next generation. The next generation should be set up to be able to take ownership of Africa's narrative. It cannot be a dream. It should be something that we need to put systems so that we can actually now make life easier. Even the freedom, the democracy of South Africa did not just fall from the sky, but people had to work hard in order to set systems for us today to enjoy the fruits of such. So we also carry the same responsibility as the University of Zululand to make sure that the students, even the staff members that are coming from this university, they become the change agents. So we appraise the university leadership for nodding for African thought. We are not confused, as we know that through Africanization, it is how we can systematically challenge and undo the colonial and post-colonial frameworks that have so taken over superiority, and then we sort of got lost in the mist, thinking that we don't matter, while we know that we can actually make a difference. So Siphila Kanje Edutainment is one of the subtle mechanisms that aims to dismantle the Eurocentric models of learning that have been dominant for decades. Our aim is to integrate a pragmatic and local context that is informed by the frameworks that are locally based and informed by the African knowledge systems, plus the lived experience of our own people. So, all in all, as I said in closing, we are grounding our concept on the Ubuntu philosophy, which celebrates our interconnectedness. Yes, what is it? Yes, it's easy, right? Our shared humanity, our collective responsibility to one another. So, asiboni any theoretical framework that can possibly suit the concept of the edutainment festival ngaphandle kwalena. Apho kuthiwa ubuntu, buthu kaSisuthu, kimutu in Congo language yase Angola, utu in Kiswahili. This is the very core of our African humanity. Lena asikwazi nokuyinikeza bani because it evolves and it originates only from us. So we are saying social cohesion, social justice, and equality can only be achieved if we set systems in our education to instill knowledge, skills, attitude, and values that will build the Africa we want, the agenda that is supposed to be achieved in 2063. This is a move towards bettering our own continent. So Ubuntu calls for us to build a culture of solidarity like we have done today. We have come gathered here, not that you don't have anything else to do, but for solidarity, empathy, and mutual respect. In conclusion, let me say, this event is more than just an event. It is a movement. It is a celebration. It is a promise. We are here to reclaim our powers, our culture, our identity. And we are making a promise that together, through the spirit of Ubuntu, we will achieve social transformation, justice, and equality. Let us continue to celebrate, exchange, and learn. Let us honor the legacy of our ancestors and build a future that is undeniably African. And let us be those change agents. Siyabonga, siyabulela kakhulu. Ngizawucela into kokubana before nihlale, I know I've taken time, but this is a day of celebration. And then ngizocela some nice music. Ngizocela ukuthi uProf Mashia aze azodlula nje la simbone sonke ukuthi nguyena umuntu owasivulela le ndlela. Siyacela ke. Sound. Cela nje ingoma. And hello, Helen.
Sanibonani, molweni, avusheni, good morning to you all. Hey, Professor Kolanis is abusing me, you know. I'm caught off guard. I don't even know what to say. She didn't prepare me for this. But I would like to say, I'm very happy about the Sipilaranje initiative that they have started with other departments. As she has stated, she came to me and I was so impressed to see the work they are doing with the community and the initiatives in their department. So we are really happy. They have enriched this event of ours by being part of us as the international office. So we are very happy, Prof. Kolanisi, and that is all I can say.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much, Prof, for that very passionate presentation. And I think what I take from your contribution is the importance of embracing oneself. And for you to know what a wonder it is to be African, what a beauty it is to be African. And from there, if it starts with us, if you know yourself, your history, you embrace it, you make it a part of you. It's only through understanding who you are that you can understand others. So if you take this opportunity to learn who you are and stop simulating, right? Even the person next to you is not you. You are you, and you were born to be you and for a purpose that is for you, right? So if we have peace, that's only way we can truly connect with others. So thank you so much for reminding us of that. So as Imbongi, yes, Usianda makes his way to the front. Sianda Ukwana. Yes, we look forward. Please, Jay, I'm showing his hands up, and his hands up. He's going to give us a wonderful piece. Usianda, he forward here to Imbongi. And we look forward to just, enjoying what makes us truly, truly African in Imbongi. A very important part of who we are as Africans. So that's how it's Imbongi.
Khulekani. Nikhulekele mina nodali size singahlukani. Khulekani. Nikhulekele mina nodali size singahlukani. Nisicalele kumdali ukuthi mina nodali ekuhambeni kwesikhathi size singakhubani. Lo mkhuba lo wamakhubalo ezinye izinsizwa angasebenzi uma simtshela. zimshayele ucingo angalibambi kodwa aqhubeke nokushayela mina. Ungidrayiva crazy, angalinge akhathale ngoba nguye yedwa umshayeli wami. Kodwa nami yami inhliziyo yamshayela ngiphathi uma ngimbona ivele ishaye ngamandla. Oh, amandla. Othando lwakho umntaka othanga ehlula. Imiyalezo engibhalela yona, igama negama landelwa inhliziyo ngifuna abone ukuthi ngingamnikeza ngisho inhliziyo yami yohlala ngakuyena. Ngazi kodwa mhlawumbe ngikhona ukuphila ngaphandle kwakhe. Ngoba ngikhumbula manje namanje usuku nosuku uma ngingambonile imini ithi hamba kuye uyambona ebusuku ngikhona nokulala mama angalezi iphutha lokulala ungakhulumile nami ungenza ngibe ngithi ngiyakhala ophulekanye niphulekele mina nodali sise singahlukani udali ongisuka sambe wentombi uphelele mngami into ethi mayimile egcwala iphilisi suka sambe wentombi uphelele mngami into ethi mayimile egcwala iphilisi Yathi nginokumfica sibuke esifukweni, eshikisha, etikiza sakujabatula. Ngize ngicabanga ukumshela kabusha, phela busha. Lokhu nje engikubonayo kuyena udali. Dala ngasho ngathi, ungisuka sambe wentombi uphelele mngami. Into ethi mayimile egcwala iphinifa. Inhliziyo yami yonke igcwele uthando lwakhe. Ngimthanda ngisho eflathele, esithele. Uyisithele esihle emva kothando lwakhe. Ohlala enhliziyweni yami lalela udali. Luhle lolu thando ongicela lona. Lungenza ngicenge ngicabange eminingi. Nami-ke bengilalela umqondo wami ungiqekethele izinqoka. Ngangiqaqa inhliziyo equkethe iqiniso ukuqinisekisa ukuthi mntakothi ngiyoqhula amaqanda wonke ngize ngifinyelele kwinhliziyo yakho. Ngiyithumele imiqhafazo kwethu. Ngangibaqaphelisa ukuthi mabaqale beqoqe. Ngoba uma kuqala inyanga ngizoqhamuka. Ngizoqopha umlando, ngizoqoqa. Uzoqala impilo yakho emaceleni. Abuqamama nonqenqema lokuqala wangasekhaya. Angifuni ukukhathala mawuze enhliziyweni yami ngoba wena ungisuka sambe wentombi uphelele mngami. Ungisuka sambe wentombi uphelele mngami. Into ethi mayimile egcwala iphinifa. Thina sakhula besifazane dala nabo ugabhayiyane singakabi ziyane egcwele umngcolo emqondweni. Emqolweni ibhluku insizwa iliphatha lithi insini ingacegeni noma ubani. Kanjalo-ke nje simile kwabesifazane besingacegeni noma ubani. Thina sikhule sibuka ugogo owesifazane emayikheli kabi phakathi nemlenze lephosi ilahle ukuze ehlale kahle ngokusiqoqa. Laba abanamhlanje abasasiqoqile balala ama-out, abanye balalwa ama-out ahlukahlukene awuthi ngithule ngoba thina sikhula besifazane dala nabo ugabhayiyane singakabi ziyane egcwele umngcolo emqondweni. Manje sibafuna embhedeni angalingi angibhedele esedla imali ebengaka nawe uma ungaphaphami uzophaphuma usudliwe sekuphoqa ukuthi imishanguzo ngesikhathi esiye ibisidliwe angithi walile bekuphuza wabona ukuthi bakulawula nathi-ke sokuthi abasulawule sikusemtholampilo phela thina sakhula besifazane dala nabo ugabhayiyane singakabi ziyane egcwele umngcolo emqondweni. Manje masike sayibona sizingela ngazo zonke izikhali ngisho imali impande yesono iyakwazi ukushintsha ukucabanga iwenza isoka amanyala liyolala nabesilisa ngoba ufuna imali neningi nabesilisa kubekani ngigibela isimele ngizobona nizosigibela noma seniye emtholampilo phela thina sakhula besifazane dala nabo ugabhayiyane singakabi ziyane egcwele umngcolo emqondweni. Besisenze sikuzoba ukuthi umuntu wesifazane uyahlonishwa nina niyabahlonisa nibenze iy'gili zokushaywa hhayi madongo asenzi kanjalo. Laba abantu besifazane badinga uthando nentokomalo elayizala abantu phela thina sakhula besifazane dala nabo ugabhayiyane singakabi ziyane egcwele umngcolo emqondweni. Bengifisa ukukhuleka ngithi inkosi yethu ukudoda kula bantu besilisa ngoba abanye basezingeni lokufana eminyakeni efanele okudoda naningi amadoda sanizinga kweyafaro ngoba bona ezinkondweni ilinganele yabafana sisengabafana sakhula besifazane dala nabo ugabhayiyane singakabi ziyane egcwele umngcolo emqondweni. Siyadinga.
Siyabonga. Wow, that was powerful. Siyabonga, and I hope you guys have taken a lesson from that. How? It's important. I mean, aside ukuthi asibe nothando, but we must also remember where we are. I mean, because sometimes sithatha uthando silibeke phambili, and then izifundo zethu sale ngemuva. There, balance is very important. So thank you so much for reminding us of that, Siyanda. We are in for a treat because I hear Prof, just before you go, izintombi are here. So just a bit of an item, and they are apparently pressed for time. So maybe if we can allow them to have an item before you do your grant and that. Yeah, but I'm not a dictator. So izintombi is corner izintombi. Are they here? Yes. Oh, sicela sishayele intombi izandla.
Yeah, I think I can manage.
Thank you, Izintombi. Siyabonga kwizintombi. That was beautiful. And may you continue and in that light. Nifundise nabanye. Thank you. We are, heading towards our one of our keynotes. Professor Agogo Akpome. Quite a visionary and quite a strong contributor in our conversations regarding African thought. And I also have to mention that I've been quite privileged to be part of some of those conversations that he's engaged in. I remember one day he met me and he said, it's quite interesting to have, a Black lady speak like an American. I still remember that comment and it stuck with me. Actually, if I would be over the phone, would you pick up if I was speaking to a South African lady? And that stuck with me. And I think since then, I've really tried to immerse myself in understanding who I am as an African. And through his conversations in the North of African Thought series, I've learned quite a lot to say who I am as an African and how I've learned to embrace myself as an African. And that has been a game changer. And I've stopped simulating and I've been myself since, and it's quite liberating. So thank you, Prof, for that. And it can only start with understanding your history. And if you put effort in understanding your history, it can only start there, because once you understand who you are at the core of you as an African, it all starts there. Then you can start to embrace others. You can start to embrace other tribes within the African continent. So thank you, Prof, for that. And we look forward to hearing from you, because and the Africa we want also starts with us as Africans understanding African problems and engaging in dialogues that really contribute in educating our communities, our learners, our students. So as he comes to the podium, can you please just give him a big round of applause? And just receive. I urge you to just receive whatever it is. I promise it will make a difference somewhat in your life.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, Sanbonani. Sanbonani. Yeah, good morning. Greetings. Let me stand on the existing protocols because we have gone fine to time, but I'd just like to thank Prof. Mashia, the organizers, for Prof. Polanisi, for giving me this opportunity. It's always a very, very joyful thing to me to be able to stand before colleagues, but more importantly, to stand before students and to speak on issues of Africa. I've been told I have 30 minutes. I will try, Program Director, to spend 20 and yield 10 minutes for the conversation.
And the 10 minutes I want to yield for the conversation should be on that side of the room rather than on this side of the room. Because we are usually very unfair. We gather students for 6 hours, we talk to them for 5.5 hours. When they start talking, we tell them the time is up. And then they are not happy. And they have a reason to not be happy. Because you don't invite someone to a meeting if all you want is for the person to listen to you. If you don't want the person to speak, send them an email. Rather than call them to a meeting, sit them down and then tell them there's no time. So I'll try, but I'm going to depend on you to give me 5 minutes breaks. Because this is something, obviously, you know, I'm very passionate about. I could speak about this for 5 hours, I won't be tired. So, Babandile, how do I now go to the slides? So what you are seeing, before I go to the slide, I hope you are seeing this picture. This is Africa. Okay, so I want you to look at it. When we speak of Africa, this is a map of Africa. Just divide it. Because some of us don't know. Some of us don't know. Some of us are so Americanized that one of the dangers of being Americanized is it makes you very ignorant. Americans have a reputation all over the world of being very ignorant people about the world. There is a competition they play in America. I think it's a baseball. They call it the World Series. You know how many countries play in the American Baseball World Series? Do you know how many countries? Can you guess? Just guess for me, please. One country, their country. But then they call it the world because they are so centered on themselves. As Africans, we shouldn't be like that. We should know the world. At least we should know Africa. So here's a map of Africa, and we are right here somewhere in South Africa, somewhere towards the east. We are very close to the Indian Ocean. Somewhere here, can you see the cursor? Can you see the cursor of the laptop? Can you see it on the? Somewhere here is Cape Town. Somewhere in Egypt is Cairo. And that reminds me, the only time I've been to America, 2017, I was in an Uber, on a boat. And I told the guy, I'm coming from South Africa. I said, I'm born in Nigeria, but I'm coming from South Africa. And the guy went, South Africa? I said, yeah. I said, do you know where that is? Do you know where South Africa is? Oh, near Egypt? And I said, no, Egypt is very far from South Africa. Egypt is on the northern end of Africa. South Africa is on the southern tip. It's about 10,000 kilometers, approximately 9,600 kilometers from South Africa, from Cape Town to Cairo. If you are flying, it will take can't take less than 10 hours, or maybe 11 hours. So that's north to south, east to west. There's a city here called Mogadishu, which is the capital of Somalia. And there's a city on the extreme west of Africa in a country called Senegal. It's Dakar. Between Dakar and Mogadishu is another approximately 9,500 kilometers. So Africa is huge, a massive place. Many languages. Some claim that there are thousands of languages, but Professor Chris Kra claims that African languages are not more than about 18. That's what he says. And he has research to prove it. About 1.4 billion people make Africa their home. Europe has about 600 million. Asia has about, India has about 1.5 billion. So India is almost the same population as Africa. China has about 1.3 billion. So I'm just giving you these things, and this is where we are. So we need to know Africa has about 54 countries, 55 countries. South Africa here at the south. In the north, there's Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt. In the west, there's Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon. In the east, there's Kenya. There is DRC almost in the middle. The two Sudans almost in the middle. I think it's important when I teach literature, I do this at the beginning of my courses. I show my students where we are. Because I think as a student, you need to have that knowledge, background knowledge, before we begin to talk about the Africa we want. But there is There are other Africas. And let me share this. So you have to share that.
Need to unshare first.
Sorry for this delay. I was hoping I would maybe stop sharing. So are you now sharing this
Presentation.
Okay, perfect. I have very few slides, so not to worry. I have 3 slides. I will stick on one. You can see this slide, can you? Great. This is not very important. This is what is important. In 1988, a Congolese scholar, priest, Catholic Christian scholar, D.Y. Mukwege, publishes this very powerful book called The Invention of Africa. And it makes the very powerful claim that the Africa many people know, at least in his time, and I would argue up to today, is an invented Africa. There is not too much time, but if you have time, as you are there, just type Africa in a Google search and press enter. Or type African culture and press enter. You see very interesting images. Go to the images. If you type Europe or European culture and you press enter, you see very different images. One image you will definitely find if you type African culture and press enter is semi-naked women and huts and animals and bush. Some years ago, my youngest son asked me, Daddy, is it only in Africa there are animals? And already some of us have imbibed, even those of us in Africa have imbibed that image, that invented Africa that D.Y. Mukwege spoke about. An Africa where there's poverty, an Africa where there's no democracy, Africa where there's civil wars, an Africa where there's backwardness. They even have another term, they say it's, they used to say undeveloped. They used to say third world. Then they got ashamed of their own ignorance, and then they started saying developing world. Some of us, as we sit here, it is that Africa that we have in our minds. A place without history is a Hegelian Africa. Hegel was supposed to be a brilliant philosopher in Europe. Up to today, one of the most watched European philosophers. Another one is Immanuel Kant. And I hope my philosophers are here. And they said all these very ignorant things about it. They imagined, they created an Africa in their mind, and they've been busy selling that Africa to us, and many of us have accepted that Africa. The new Africa they are creating is an Africa that is corrupt.
Prof, sorry to cut you. They said don't move a minute.
Because of the Zoom people, I'm sorry. It feels like class. I'm sorry. So they are busy creating. If I ask some of you, and if you go on social media, there's a project I started, I've not finished it. If you go on social media, if you see the Africa that Africans represent on social media, it's horrible. There's one image I saw on the WhatsApp status of a very respected professor. If I call his name, some of you will know him. Many, at least almost all the colleagues will know him. And what I saw, 2 images split into 2. On the one side is a white boy trying to drive a tractor. Have you seen that image? Yeah, there's a white boy learning to drive a tractor. On the other side, there's a black boy with a huge microphone pretending to be preaching in a church. You saw that image. What does that image tell you? That Africa is a place where black people are people who are stupid. They are busy following religious superstitions, but white people train their children to drive tractors. What is the effect of all that invention? It has made many Africans, some of us included, some professors included, think of Africans as stupid, backward, underdeveloped people. And it's very possible that some of you here already have that impression of Africa. Now, the problem is when many of us black people, when we think like that about Africa, we think that it is that Africa is backward. We forget that we are African, that we are saying we are backward. So when your knowledge of Africa, of African politicians, of African politics as backward and corrupt, you think you are talking to somebody in Pretoria, in parliament, you are talking about yourself. You are saying that you are a backward, corrupt, undeveloped, stupid human being. That's what you are saying. You are not checking the time. This is how I'll now get to. But if we read, there's a brilliant scholar, Edward Said, is Palestinian American. He passed away now in 1978. He came out with a very powerful theory of Orientalism, where he demonstrates how Mundimbe, on his part, if you have time, that book is free online. It's freely available online. The Invention of Africa, PDF. He details the history, the conquest of Africa, the partition of Africa, the massive looting and stealing of African resources that were all part of colonization, the massive genocides in Namibia among the Hereros and the Namas. The Germans killed between 20 and 100,000 people around 1904. In the Congo, during the time of a guy called Leopold, king of Brussels, of Belgium, the colonialists killed at least 10 million Congolese people. I will not go into details. We don't even have the figures for South Africa. In order to justify the massive slaughter, the barbaric slaughter of human beings, and to justify the massive looting and stealing of resources of other people, European colonies came up with a knowledge system that produced Africans as people who were less than human. And that's what that's a summary of Mundimbe's work in the Invention of Africa. Unfortunately, many of us believe that. There's a slide I would have liked to share, but I don't have it. It will take me too much time to look for. So the question I'm asking is which Africa we want. It's the same question that the program director asked. Which Africa do you know? Which Africa do you want? And what is the role of the African University? This is my title towards the AU's Agenda 2063, which is the Africa we want. What is the role of the African University? And if you take note, I put African University there in scare quotes because it may not be what you think it is. Why do I do that? One, so I want you to begin to think. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to do like the program director to say what are the goals. I have two reasons for it. It's going to waste time. Secondly, if you are an African, are you an African? If you're an African, the African we want should be the Africa you want. Am I right? So somebody shouldn't tell me the Africa. I'm African. That's the problem I have with the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Somebody shouldn't go somewhere and tell me what should be my development goals. Please. I have my goals. They are mine. And I'll change them the way I want. I don't need your 16 or 17 or 18 or 19. Maybe mine are 4. Maybe they are 44. All right. Colonialists created a knowledge system that have produced an Africa that some of us have in mind. It is the role of the African University to reinvent Africa. And that is the job the University of Zululand has given itself. It's a massive assignment, and it is one that I am very proud of. The highest part of my career has been these past 3 years that we have worked on African things. It has been my absolute pleasure and joy to be part of this task. And I challenge you to become part of the task, because it is the task of reinventing Africa that will produce the Africa that you want. But there's a gentleman who answered your question, gave a brilliant answer. He said living standards. You don't need anybody to tell you if you are hungry that you need food, right? You don't need a document from the United Nations. If you feel unsafe from Mama Dabuka, you don't need somebody to tell you that you need to be safe. If you come to campus, young student, 19-year-old student with your laptop and your cell phone and you're going to rest, You don't need any professor to tell you that you want to feel safe. I need. That's the Africa that you want. But it's the knowledge system. The role of the university is to recreate a knowledge system that enables the realization of that Africa. That's the summary of my presentation. Why? Because knowledge creates reality. I'll repeat it. Knowledge creates reality. A false knowledge will create a false reality. And if you are not aware of the knowledge, and knowledge is such an insidious thing. You know, you can believe something and you don't know that's what you believe. You can be terribly misled, a fool, and not know that you are a fool. Because if you believe a lie and you live a lie, it's usually the person fooling you and the other person who is not fooled that knows that you are being a fool. You would know yourself. So that's the role of the African University. But the African University is not the same as the university in Africa. These universities in Africa, the vast majority of them, including this, our own University of Zululand, were created by the Western colonized people to serve their purpose. That is why this university is deciding to turn itself into an African university. UniZulu is on a path to remaking itself from being just a university in Africa that has an address in Africa to being an African university. And for your information, universities, according even to Western records, the first university in the world was in Fez, Morocco. That's what you see on the slide. That is actually, according to Western sources, that was the first. It's not Cambridge. It's not Harvard. It's not Wits. It's not UCT. And there was a powerful university with a massive library in a place called Timbuktu. Fez is in Morocco. Timbuktu is in a country called Mali. There was a massive library in the town called Alexandria in Egypt, the Egypt that's called Kemet. And listen, that Egypt, where even Western sources say is the source of modern civilization, was a black Egypt. If you look at pictures of the pyramids were the tallest, the Egyptian pyramids were the tallest of structures on earth for over 3,000 years. But today people talk to us about Isaac Newton. Even when Isaac Newton's great-grandfather didn't have a girlfriend, the Egyptians built pyramids. Even when the so-called laws of motion were not yet formed. But they tell us about these laws of motion as if Newton invented gravity. No, he didn't invent gravity. He just had a means of doing it. People had other means. Africans had other means. There was a guy called Imhotep. If you look at the pictures of the sphinxes of Giza, so you can type the word Giza, it will show you they are in Egypt till today. You see the faces, they made structures, they made sculptures of their kings. If you look at most of them today, they have no noses. Do you know why? The Europeans broke the noses. Do you know why? Because the noses showed that they were black. Africa had great kingdoms, the kingdom of Mali, the kingdom of Songhai, mainly in West Africa, the kingdom of Benin, which is not very far from where I was born. In the kingdom of Benin, there was a street lamp before there was one in Amsterdam. There's Mapungubwe. Have you heard of Mapungubwe in Limpopo area? Can I tell you a little bit about Mapungubwe? It was discovered, the ruins of Mapungubwe were discovered in the 1930s by scholars at the University of Pretoria. Because they tried to link it with a European civilization and they failed, they kept it secret until 1994. Because records show that it was a black African, highly advanced civilization. What about Great Zimbabwe? There are too many, I can't list them. I just put them there so you can see them. If you are interested, take a photograph or write them down and go and Google them for yourself. in the recreation of Africa, we think African thought as an intellectual approach will serve us very well. When we talk about African thought, especially at this level, we are very interested in conscientization, which is to enliven our sensibilities and our sensitivities, our aspirations, our worldviews. Dr. Ngangamanga called me yesterday. I listened to this on Monday. I couldn't attend I missed Professor Mahule's initial address, but I followed some of the others on YouTube in my office. Yesterday, I was too busy teaching, I couldn't follow, but I yearned to be part of the conversation. Dr. Mandla called me yesterday and said, if you are driving on the road, or let's say you are a student like our students here, and a fancy car drives past you, if you think of the person driving that fancy car, and you think of your Malume Atikaya, that's staying, that has a house, that has a crowd, that has its own cattle, and doesn't owe the bank, which one would you like to become like? Ask yourself now, students. Most possibly, you will want to be like the guy in the Range Rover who is a slave to Absa, who is afraid of his boss in Richard Gray Coal Terminals because he will be fired the next day. But your Malume Atikaya is a free man. He has his cattle, he has his land, he has his crops. So in the recreation of Africa, we are interested in this is what we call sensibilities. Many of us, because of internet, we have developed very strong non-African sensitivities and sensibilities. I'm not addressing this to you. Yeah. But it shows sometimes in our accent. Know what I'm saying? So that's why I love my first years. I absolutely love my first years. He asked them a simple question. Hey, you saw, you see, what did not read or is showing? Excuse me, man. Excuse me, can you please speak English? And our dreams, we dream of being somebody else. There's a novel, when you finish, try and read it. It's called Coconut by Kopano Matla. You've heard of the coconut, you've heard of the Oreo, eh? Brown outside, but what's inside? Yeah. Loss of identity. Identity crisis. And it's also part of the Afrophobia we see in many parts of the world, not only in South Africa, but it's in many parts of the world. In South Africa, it's very easy. It's very easy to be, you don't have papers. What about the white Zimbabweans who don't have papers? I was having a conversation at OR Tambo one day. We were having 2 or 3 of us. And we were talking about how it's only Black people that don't have papers that they see in South Africa. And one white lady just smiled. She says, you are very correct. She says she's Zimbabwean. She has never been asked, because she's white. She's never been asked about her papers. What about the masses of white people who came from the Balkans? 1994 coincided with the end of the Soviet Union, coincided with the Balkan Wars in the former Yugoslavia, which split into 7 countries, and many of them flooded into South Africa. Who talks about them? The problem is the Black guy. You know why? It's not because South Africans hate Nigerians. It's because Black people hate Black people. It's not really a matter of this country and that country. And that attitude you find in South Africa, you find all over Africa. Everywhere you find Black people, you see that Afrophobia. Like I challenge some of my non-South African people. I'm from Nigeria, and I try sometimes if I can manage, I try to do small isiZulu. And I remember this Cameroonian colleague. I greet her in isiZulu. She said, Yapil. I said, come on, can't you even try and say Yapil? Try. She said, why do you want to teach me Zulu? I said, but if you were in Germany for these 5 years, you would have learned German. If you go to Spain for 3 months, you will learn Spanish. You don't want to learn isiZulu. It's not because of xenophobia, because you hate yourself. It's because it's a Black person's language. So it's the sensitivities. That's what we are trying to do. then we are going beyond that. We are talking about knowledge production. There's a great philosopher, he died in February. His name is Paulin Utunji. And he made this claim in 1995, that one of the biggest problems in Africa is that African intellectuals, that we have extroverted intellectual activity. We are always thinking Europe and America. Most of the research questions we are asking is trying to solve problems they have asked in America. You see, like when we ask for SDGs, I'm sorry to use this. Where did they write the SDGs? They wrote it in the United Nations. They call it United Nations. In that United Nations, 55 African countries, all our votes are less than the vote of one country called France. And they must tell us what to do and how to live, and we are so happy to follow them. And when we are thinking of how to solve their problems, like the one they call climate change. They actually gave South Africa money to stop using coal. Meanwhile, they are storing coal in Germany. We are having load shedding, right? They are keeping coal. We are trying to solve their problems. We are not trying to solve our own. So that's what African thought asks us. We are following the steps of Paulin Utunji to be introverted in our thinking. Ngugi, do you know Ngugi? Ngugi wa Thiong'o, great novelist writer from Kenya. He put it in this way. He said the massive problem, he was talking about language, but he says when people start to think from a foreign starting point to the self, and we demonstrated it this morning when, was it Professor Kolanis asking a question, somebody asked a question, and you were trying to answer, and she saw already that you are going to Google. You are thinking from another person's mind. You are trying to think from somebody else's mind. But you have your mind. What about your mind? And let me just digress a bit. You know this thing they call AI. And some of you think it's the best thing that happened since Pap and Flace. Because every question you can solve. How did the answer you get from AI, how did it get to the internet? Can somebody tell me? Those answers, have you ever copied or plagiarized? Anybody here? Oh, sorry, no. Have you ever used information that you did not reference very well? Let me put it like that. Have you, anybody just wave your hand? We know you guys. Just, yeah. Thank you. Those questions there that Meta AI gives you on WhatsApp, how did those answers, how did they get there? Can somebody tell us? Please, I need an answer. I mean it. It's not a rhetorical question. Did your cell phone produce the questions? Does the internet produce it? They were put there by somebody who thought through the points. So what you do is you are giving up your mind. You are insulting yourself. You're insulting your mother and your father and your grandfather and your teachers and everybody when you depend on somebody else's mind. Meanwhile, if those people sitting in London and New York, if they go to AI, they will not see the answers that you put there. Do you see the problem? That slide from Prof. Siepa, I should slap myself for not bringing it. That slide says something about a former Black American. He says if you control, his name is Wilson Carter. Woodrow, I'm sorry, I'll try and get it. I'll send it, maybe we can circulate it. He said if you control a person's mind, if you control what somebody's thinking, don't bother about his actions. You don't need to bother. If you can make him think in a certain way, you don't need to check how he's behaving because we all behave according to our thinking. Is that right? If you convince somebody that the front door is not for him, he must always pass the back door. Even if he goes to a house without a back door, if he gets to a house and there's only a front door, he will go and get an axe and create a back door for himself. So the knowledge production system is a masterful, the university and the media. It's a masterful creation by colonialists to control your mind. Malcolm X said it earlier. And Dr. Mzilani said it also on Monday when he made references to press houses. We are making a huge mistake. I've told Professor Siepe this. When we talk so much about classroom and we don't talk about the media. The media is very powerful. You open WhatsApp, they show you images of Africa. There's another one they show. Policemen in America. You see trim feet, nice looking guys marching. Then they say policemen in South Africa. Then they show these ugly clowns. It looks like a joke, but what is it trying to say? Do you think of the deeper meaning? It's saying that black people are stupid people. That our police they don't even know that they have a job to do. And we participate in it. And instead of crying, we laugh. We share it. So African thought means that we have to generate epistemologies of change. We have to recreate ourselves. So let me close with this. Have I not done 20 minutes? So I'm going to say a few things. Prof. Kolani, if we have good friends. Huh? Where's Andy Limten? Leadership. We are friends, I need. Huh? We remain friends. Whatever happens at BZ today. Okay. Prof, Doc, we are friends. Doc Madel. What? No matter we are friends. Whatever happens after now, whatever I say. Friends forever. Okay. The idea of international. What is international? Now I say international. Be honest. Be honest, Bafetu. What comes into your mind? America, Australia, Canada. Sweden. Yeah, I wasn't the one who said so, please. Who said that now? I remember some years ago, I heard a radio announcer saying, you know, these people from international countries. I'm like, what? What is any country that's not your country is international? Eswatini, is it international? Lesotho. Aha, that's a smart answer. But let's be honest, guys. When we think international, we think of Israel, Germany, and the idea of internationalization. Prof. Mashia, you remember that question we dealt with in that workshop? Can we Africanize and internationalize at the same time? And my answer to that question is, can we Westernize and internationalize? You see, it's a funny question. I mean, why do we ask that question at all? And then there's one called globalization. All right. And they will tell you, anybody in FCAL here, FCAL people, anybody doing management, economics, globalization. Oh, come on, some of you are here, you are scared. I'm not going to put you on the spot. You know, they tell you globalization, the global world, globalized economies are now integrated. You can write down the word integrated. That is, they come together, right? Then they tell you about collaboration, like some of them that were mentioned yesterday. And even today, collaboration, our universities and their universities. And then they say we are in a partnership. Prof. Kolanis, why are you laughing like that now? And they fund you. And they buy your ticket. And they pay your hotel. And they pay your field work money. And you still think you are in a collaboration? Oh, no, you're not in a collaboration. No, you're not. You see, because the word subjugation can also mean collaboration. It can also mean partnership. So ask yourself, are you a junior partner or you are a senior partner? The terms of engagement, on whose terms? Who sets the rules of engagement? And that is what they do to Africa. That is how they poison our sensitivities. Gacheno Nobu said something. He said, many of us Africans, some communities, especially during the first part of colonization, now we're in the second part, which we call colonialism. So, like in South Africa with the apartheid, saying black people cannot go to some schools. So some people went overseas and they went to different places. Some of them never came back. Some came with their bodies, they never came with their minds. Because when they came back, their father became primitive. Their language became useless. Their food became useless. They had become westernized. They came with ideas from overseas, and that's what many of these partnerships are doing. Even now, they can't pay your airfare, pay your hotel, pay for your research, and not tell you how to think. They are not interested in your development. They are interested in furthering their cognitive empire. They are interested in spreading the cognitive empire and making you part of that empire. If you go out and find out, most of the people who have been involved, most of the NGOs who have been used to destabilize governments all over Africa, many of them did a Fulbright scholarship. They will tell you how corrupt your politicians are, how useless your government system is. What kind of food are you eating? Oh, it's useless. And then you become an alien at home. Then you go to New York or you go somewhere, they'll give you a theory that will never work. All the economic theories, the development theories they gave to Africa, they never work. But you know who is at fault? It's the Africans. How? This doctor is giving everybody a medicine. All the people are dying. But the doctor says it's the people. I told them to take 2 tablets, they took 3. That's why they died. Nobody has come to ask the doctor, how? What are you giving our people? We have economic theories like foreign direct investment. Have you heard what they call foreign direct investment? They say your country will become prosperous if you let a company from overseas come and, oh, please. Oh, please, excuse me. Some of us here are not from KZN, right? We just came here to study. So let me ask you a question. Me now, I'm from Nigeria. First, I was in Johannesburg before they offered me this job here. So do you think I came from Johannesburg to make you rich? Huh? Do you think I came from Nigeria to make you rich? So why do you think somebody will come from America to make you rich? Or Sweden? That Ethiopian shop, they like attacking Ethiopian shops during xenophobia, and Somali shop and Pakistani shop. Did they come to make you rich? No, they came to make themselves rich. In that, you are very correct. But why do you think the American shop in the mall came to make you rich? Why do you think that? What kind of stupid thinking is that? Somebody will leave his country, bring his money, bring it to your country to make you rich. But that's what the professors in economics teach. So African thought says we should think as Africans. My colleague who has moved to UJ now, Professor Lowe, he says we should stand up from where we are sitting. And there's a way I put it, we should look at the world from our window. When you look at the world, if you are staying in a big yard, you want to see what's happening in the yard, stand at your window. Don't go and stand in somebody else's window, because what the view you will get from another person's window can never be the right view. So when we internationalize, Prof. Mashia, this is my proposal. And I heard colleagues, was a Dr. Utelezi on Monday, right? And some other colleagues, they were saying, what do we take out? Do we take anything out? So that's the idea of African thought, is that we take out what we know. We don't claim to know everything. We don't claim that we won't take from others. Oh, yes, we will take from others. It's exchange. After all, they take our resources. The other day, they said they discovered the second biggest diamond in the world. They discovered it where? In Botswana. They are going to sell it where? In London, I promise you. You've heard of the Collingham diamonds that Charles' mother gave to him. You know Charles? That guy in London. You don't know Charles? A very famous guy. You know him? Harry's elder brother. Very famous, idle, non-working, rich guy. Yeah, what has he ever done? What work has he ever done? You know those diamonds they gave to him? They got them from South Africa. 1922. You can Google it. Cullinan Jewelry. So if they can steal our resources, if there's anything good there that will benefit us, we are free to go and take. I'm not against that. So when we internationalize, Prof. Mashia, that's what I suggest. We don't let them pay our flights, pay our brain, pay our thinking, pay everything. Let's also pay their flights and give them a research proposal. Do this research. You know, that's what they do. They tell you to do the research. Where's your method? I changed the methodology. We want you to do Amahewu research. We call them. Do it the way we want it done. So that it's a proper partnership. Do you get what I'm saying? So that it's a give and take. So that it's not subordination. Because they use the word integration and partnership to hide. Because let me tell you, colonial knowledge is a knowledge of deception. Much of colonial knowledge is one of deception. This is what they mean. They use another term to cover it. Yes, it's now 19 minutes. Okay, they say it's 19 minutes. I have one last minute. But I hope that in this past 18 minutes, I'm able to get you to think. Think of your experience as Africans. Think of your worldviews. Think of your aspirations. Listen, you will never be white. You will never be Western. You can become a tool of the West. Now, when they can accept you and use you as their tool and talk about you and select you out of very many Africans and say, you're not like them. You're not like them, you understand. I like the way you eat. You know how to use your fork and knife. You're not like these Zulu people. You're not like these Xhosa people. I like you. But you will never be accepted as them. They are still the small brother. African thought gives us a chance to be ourselves, to create our identities, and to craft a future, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, maybe 50 years, that our children will be proud of, that they will have glory the way the kingdom of Egypt, those who built the pyramids, the kingdom of Benin, the kingdom of Mapungubwe, the way they built African society, and we have that history to read, maybe in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, they will tell our story like that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. As always, you know, Prof. Akpome always leaves me challenged. And that's why I always say I appreciate the University of Zululand a lot, because it's in this university where I truly got my consciousness. And in this 3-year project of the Node of African Thought, that's when the bug of consciousness truly bit me. And I hope that also today, when you leave here, you are also challenged to go. You don't just accept anything as it is, but to be critical and just don't take it as it is, but be critical about it. Who am I as an African? And since that bug has bitten me, I've been intentional in being an African in Africa. And I've been intentional in confronting Western and Eurocentric ignorance. And that is true liberation. So I'd also like to acknowledge the Consulate General of India. I have been told they are in our midst. And I'd also like to acknowledge Ingoma, the Sanbonang. We look forward to their performance. So I think now, let's just quickly go into our roundtable discussion. I think our panelists have been waiting for a while now. Prof. Akpome, is this your laptop? Yes. Please, I would like to make use of this space. I'll just introduce our panelists quickly, and then we can just engage. But before I do that, so the critical question that our panelists will be engaging on today is, how do we integrate communities in African universities for advocating internationalization, right? How do we integrate communities in African universities for advancing internationalization? So as our panelists engage on this, just write a question if you have a question. And just have this in mind, right? So our first speaker will be Dr. M. Madela. Let me just give a bio about him, right? So we know. So Dr. Madela, I hope I do justice to this stuff because now I have to do my own research, you know. It's a national health Department of Health, so he's a passionate Department of Health individual, and he is a co-founder of Expretra Health Solutions, a primary healthcare implementation organization. He is also the co-founder and chairperson of another NPO, Salud Global Institute for Research, Development and Training, where he promotes research and capacity building for primary healthcare and universal healthcare coverage. He has vast experience in the implementation of primary healthcare strategies at community level, and he has contributed to various initiatives in healthcare delivery. In 2013, he was part of a delegation on a study for Angola, to Angola, to understand implementation of the Cuban medical education program in the country. In 2017, he was a speaker at the 70th World Health Assembly in Geneva through his advocacy for improvements in primary healthcare. In 2018, he was a speaker. Yeah, he was a speaker at the U.S. Congressional briefing of NCD's integration in Washington, D.C. So he'll tell us more about the West. And in 2018, he was a panelist at the Africa Health Business Symposium. In 2019, he was a panelist at the Africa Health Agenda International Conference in Rwanda, and is contributed as a reviewer in various articles. And I'm pretty sure Doc, there's been other escalates after that. So we look forward to hearing from you. If you can just come to the podium and share your contribution. A round of applause.
Oh, Sanbonani. I often make comments about the greetings because I think as an African nation, especially Zulu people or the Ngoni, we don't greet time. We greet a person. So I don't have to worry what time is, because I would have started by checking what time. Must I say good morning or good afternoon before you crack out loud? That how would you say good morning after 12? He must get his things right, right? So again, we are being Africans. Let us stick to what we know. It's being a lela bantu, because that's what we prioritize. That's how we're different. And that's what we are selling out. The opportunities to meet other nations, either here on this soil or outside South Africa and elsewhere. This is my aspiration, to be always in the forefront with who I am and how we could, and take at length to explain why do we even say, you even go to an extent of saying, you know, sir, there's plurality in it, right? Why but I'm saying sa nibona, because sa represents many. I don't say ngiyakubona, I say sawubona or sanibona. Now that alone goes a long way, because I'm now relating my understanding that as you see me, there's a whole host of my siblings and my ancestors that are surrounding me as I go, and I see you right now, right? I want to explain this even to the Nguni people, the African people, because you get to be afraid to talk about this, to say, why do we even? So if you greet, hi, you get into some circles, you meet somebody, hi, hi, hi. Now, we Africans, we greet and then I wait for the response. And what is the response? Yebo, sanibona, siyaphila, si, again, plural. Who is si? But if I have a situation back home, siyaphila, kodwa, hey, umama kaphathekile kahle. Now that's where I begin to say, you see me here, but part of me is not well because I'm thinking of my not so well mom or aunt or my roommate. That's being part of Africa, right? So you meet somebody here at the university. Prof. Pome referred to the way we start changing even the way we speak, because now we are at a tertiary. And it angisakwazi ukukhuluma njengoba ngikhuluma high school. Sekufanele ngikhombise ukuthi sengisenyuvesi phela manje. Yabo ulimi layo elutho. Yabona? Now, as you begin to do that, it's not just you and the tongue that expresses. Something must have happened prior to that. Very deep psychologically. Because we don't speak from the tongue, we speak from the mind. Right? So sometimes you hear somebody expressing either whatever inkondlo isibe nawo la ibikhuluma ngothando yabona umkhulu abanye bazi bathi uthando, if you make it emotional, that's not love. Love is psychological. Why is it psychological? It's the sense that when you love, you have committed in your uppermost being, which is your mind. I usually say to people when they start messing things up, why do you think ingqondo yabekwa phezulu? Why ingabanga phansi konyawo noma ibe sematheni onyawo? Because God could create us in that way, right? Why ingayifaka ngaphansi ematheni onyawo? But he decided to put it up there. And then when we walk upright. We don't walk with our heads down and our feet up. Unless we can some acrobatics. Just to retain your positive self. So with this African thought, and as a university in Africa versus an African university, I really love the concept because this is exactly what we want to see in this university. My privilege is that also ngifundisa isiZulu okuyulimi lwami. I got a chance also to teach Americans isiZulu. I still do when they come here. There are groups who normally visit South Africa, and I still teach them when they are here. I teach them isiZulu. Now, what I usually emphasize, as we all know, the language is a vessel that carries all who we are and what we made of and what we cherish the most. Iloko iphethe amagugu esizwe, iphethe ubuthina nangendlela esizinathi. Ngaze ngibuza iklasi lami ngithi uma nje umuntu ehlangana nawe uthi ngingumZulu noma ngumAfrican abesethi akungitshele nje usiko impilo amaZulu aziwa ngalo noma isizwe esinsundu esaziwa ngaso yini nje ongamnikeza yona. Awuyingane zami ezinhle ake ngizwe nje khona la endlini ngoba ziyalazi lento. You all know this. What will that be? That will be a very significant top-notch culture that you can highlight that could actually encapsulate or embrace most of the cultures that signify who we are. Just give me one. Whatever you think, there's no wrong or right. Yes. Oh, thank you.
I think it's gonna, it's not. South African. It's training,
And siyiveza kanjani leyo nto? How do we show up a philosophy of Ubuntu? How does it show up in our lifestyle? The greetings, the very recognition that I see you and the way I greet you. Thank you so much. Very well. But that also is part of ubuhlobo. Hlonipha. Uyamhlonipha umuntu if you recognize ukumbona. Mawuzo urecognize isikhathi kunomuntu awumhloniphi, kusho ukuthi awumboni lokhu. Ubona isikhathi instead. This is just an example. Angisho ke ukuthi bese ningixabanisa nabantu abaqhamuka nokubingelela isikhathi. Right. But this is just one example. So greeting is one of the ways of respecting one another and recognizing that I see you and I believe that you also see me. So when we meet in this environment of a university, what we are about is creating that kind of society, that community, that we are going to go back to our roots. I usually frame this as be locally grounded, but internationally connected. There's nothing wrong about that. But if you start by being grounded internationally and you're still trying to connect with the locals, you are that kind of an uncle who goes to Joburg 1 week and forgets that he actually comes from Kwanongoma. Then within a week, hey Mara, hey Mara. How we feel jello. So Mara. Ngoba usithandile isitayela saseGoli bebekhuluma isiZulu. So Prof Gomez was also referring to the ignorance of America. Fortunately, I've tasted their experience and being in that space, because all what you normally see, a certain professor visits Mali, visits Nigeria for a weekend, for a week, for a safari, because that's what Africa is about. And guess what? When they go back, they are what? They are Africans expats. Expert. You know what an expert is, right? You look at it, injula lwazi, umuntu was usolwazi, umuntu was yonke into ngaleyo lento ayiclaimayo ukuthi. So they go back and become specialists in Africa. So they will even have talks when they organize these. Sometimes they call them brown bags, and then as they present these brown bags, they are relating their stories that they gathered whilst they were in Africa. And unfortunately, for the most part, they don't state exactly how long did they stay in that particular part of Africa, but they already known as experts. So we don't want to create that kind of an African academic, wherein if you go to Sweden today through the program and then automatically become a specialist in Sweden affairs, right? So basically, I think what Prof. Gomez referenced is really shedding some light into how do we begin to reset. Maybe that's another way of looking at it. How do we reset ourselves into becoming who we are, and then creating this commodity, this brand that we can sell out to other people, so that we're not always sold fake things that actually end up taking all who we are, all what we have, and we become empty. And we look what is happening now. We are made to feel that because we are not working, right? Now, what is happening in our country? Grants this, grant that, grant this, grant this. We are becoming a handout society. what does that do to your self-esteem? What does that do to your dignity in terms of, I know some would say politics, but that's another issue. You cannot separate politics from academia. Because if you follow what Prof. Mkandawiri was revisiting, how academia in his book, I think it's a African Intelligentsia, where he addresses how there was a period where academics were kicked out of all the political formations of when the country's president would never want to see anything called an academic close by. Because what is the significance of an academic? One, you want to investigate things before you utter them out. You want to support it with facts, research facts. But when you look at the behavior of politicians, they still want some kind of information from research, but then they just throw in numbers. I once did a course where we were investigating something that said the uses and the abuses of research. So where we're looking at who normally funds certain research. And then once you fund that, he's already mentioned that to say, once you put in a fund, then the expectation is that who has the lion's share in terms of the type of knowledge that is going to be produced, how the knowledge is going to be shared or distributed, definitely is the one with. So even with the kind of collaborations, one of the things probably that needs to be in the forefront in the negotiations and deliberations is that once they put in money, they even in their policies, these foreign organizations will put a principle or a condition that unless you partner with a European or an American, so you cannot find funding from Australia if there's no Australian participant in that partnership. So if they are genuine about giving money to institutions that need to develop, why would they put that condition that unless there's one of us? And also even to mention that, and that one who is an Australian must be the one who's driving the project. So you only become a field for research, but you are not capable of producing knowledge that is going to be beneficial to you specifically or to your people where you are. So I think that was just a contribution. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Doc, for that very profound contribution. I think what I take from it, and thank you for reminding us that as we stand here, we're not only ourselves, but we represent years and years of generational DNA that you stand there. That's why someone can say, you look like your grandmother, you sound like your great-grandmother, right? So as you walk, as you sit there, you represent generations and generations of generational footprint of your ancestors. So the more you embrace that and you understand that, the less you would want to simulate someone else who knows nothing about you. Our next speaker is Mr. Ati Piwani. He is a lecturer and a novice researcher in the Department of Sociology at the university. Yeah, he calls himself a novice. Are you not a novice? Are you established? His research interest is sociology of development with specific reference to environmental sociology. And he's currently working on his PhD with a focus on marine sociology of oceans, which he considers an underexplored South African context, in the South African context. So I'm interested to hear about that. You can say it's underexplored, so what do you mean? And he's also working on his publications. And yeah, so we look forward to hear from you, Mr. Piwani, future go.
Ndizawuqala ndizawuzise kakuhle, right? Mandiqale ndithi Nqanga kunye neentsiba zayo. Phambi kwenu lo wedla-ngamandla uTola uMxenge uValebongolani kumabhanikazi. Umlambo awuwela wela ziimbodlela zodwa kuba zikwazi ukubhambanyaza. Now, into endenza uba ndize nale introduction, I'm trying to show into yokubana uArthi noPhiwane, they are just an identity that was given to me. Kodwa uDla-ngamandla is who I am. Firstly, let me try to not to respond per se, my key takes on Prof. Akpome's work that he was presenting to us. Prof, we might agree on Hegel, Marx, that they were typical racist individuals that never saw anyone as a person besides their white selves. Again, Prof, trying to not disagreeing with you, of course, as a decolonial scholar, of course. Decolonial scholars are mostly influenced by Frantz Fanon, right? Frantz Fanon, a European, not through melanin, of course. He was a European living in France, in Europe, knowing nothing about Africa, but telling us how we as Africans should think and do ways, right? So for me, Hegel, Frantz Fanon, Karl Marx, they all belong in the same bag of maize meal, right? Now, Frantz Fanon, for me, as a sociologist, is what we call in anthropology the helicopter scholars, right? People who analyze you without engaging on your daily activities or on your daily lived experiences, and then they tell you about yourself, which is not different from what Malinowski did, right, and other scholars. The second one that I would like to look at is, what is Africa, by the way, right? Are we sure that the continent is even Africa before Europeans came? What if that is just a name that was given to us because we're categorized the way we are? And then sustainability. As an environmental sociologist, I'm not an environmental activist. I'm an environmental sociologist, someone who's trying to understand how we interact with the environment and how that environment interacts with us. And this kind of thinking that I have is based on my African, not because I don't necessarily align with what is called Africanism, right? I align to what, which is called self-identity, as right? So I believe that as Black people, South Africans, Wundis, or whatever classification you belong in, we interact with the environment, and the environment also interacts with us, right? We give life to the environment gives us life, right? So if you look at this plant that is in front of us now, science tells us that this plant cannot survive with us, right? Without us, because of the photosynthesis, right? And those that we produce, the gases that we produce that make it to survive. So that's my biggest point of concern in terms of how the environment interacts with us and how we interact with it. Now coming to the discussion, right, to say, how do we integrate communities, right, in African, communities in African universities, in an attempt to internationalize. So for me, as a theoretically, of course, now taking a philosophical stance, I'm a philosophical sociologist, right? That is deeply interested in Plessner's writings of positionality, right? So Plessner is a European, just like Prof. Akpome said. If there is anything that we see positive that can benefit us as Africans, we should be able to take and use those, right? So Plessner, when argues on positionality, right? So for me, I think we can only integrate these communities if firstly we start by understanding what is a human being. Now, a human being, for me, we define it using Plessner's theory of positionality. So he has about 4 tenets or 4 theoretical arguments that he puts, which I believe they're correct. The first one is eccentric positionality, right? So what we argue here is that any species, whether it's a plant or an animal, it is in a constant conflict, right? One, with self. How many of you today, who are say it's sexist, but it's fine. How many of you females today took about 2 seconds to decide on the outfit that you were going to wear today? Like 2 seconds. when you decided on the outfit that you were going to wear today? How many females that it took them 2 seconds to decide on the outfit? Only 2 seconds. Okay. I was only the students, not you. Colleagues, how many of you decided? It took you only 2 seconds to decide on the outfit. Why did you even have to decide? Come again? Okay. Why did you even have to decide? Okay, that's a nice one. So that is exactly what Lesnar is talking about, right? Even when it's hot, you decide which outfit will accommodate that particular weather for that day, right? And that constant conflict now requires you as a human being, right, to understand this particular conflict. So now when it comes to us as Africans, or yes, lack of a better word, Africans, how do we then navigate within that particular conflict? Because what these European people have mastered is to exploit the conflict that exists with us individually, and then the conflict that exists within us as a group. Now, Plessner argues that, which I agree with him, of course. I would need to present it that if I did not. Now, through Plessner, we are saying, when you look at a human being, another conflict is between a human, like us as human beings, between nature and culture. Culture is not necessarily showcasing your heritage as a person. We see culture as a way of life, right? Your way of life is in a constant conflict with nature now. How? The food that you eat is impacting the environment. Whatever that you do depends on nature. So your advancement now as a human being, as a way of life, then determines how now, let me try to be quick. So with that particular conflict that exists between us, animals or human beings and nature, that is what makes a human being. And you cannot understand now what any society without at least looking or understanding at these two particular tenets as provided by Plessner. The last one, which I want to focus on, is what he calls boundary and crossing, which I believe is the solution now to internationalization. How? As human beings, we have our own preferences, specifically as Africans. As Africans, a university like this one that is here in university, here KwaDlangezwa, is Zululand, right? Is this university serving the people that it is supposed to be serving? One. If yes, tell me which projects have been done from the Faculty of Natural Sciences, right, that speak to the issue of water shortages in our community, which is the biggest problem here. How many from the Faculty of Humanities have been done to deal with the issue of Amadabuka? How many? None. But what we do now is to have universities in African communities that are advancing foreign agendas behind the curtain of Africanism. Right. Now, this can be seen in the current debate within African philosophy. When we speak about what is Ubuntu? Now, Ubuntu has been a debate that has been assumed to be global, right? That it's something that we share commonly as Africans. For me, I would say that for me is a lie, right? Ubuntu, as Prof said, when he was defining about the Africa that you want, it cannot be the Africa that we want, right? An Africa that you want is the one that you determine as an individual. No one tells you that you're hungry. I want to get hungry when Prof gets hungry, right? So Ubuntu has been argued to be a universal approach. We can agree theoretically, but Ubuntu should be understood as an African philosophy that is positionality based. Each society, each country has its own definition and understanding of Ubuntu. So will the operations that are based on such. So if we are to understand Ubuntu from that positionality perspective, we can then be able to internationalize and at the same time to have a purely clear African university. That is my addition to what this big project by Prof. Akpome of African Note for African Thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kwana. I mean, we are in an academic institution, so it's this contestation of ideas. This is where they should happen, you know. And our problems in Africa are complex, so that's why we need rigorous engagements, which we appreciate. Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. S. Maposa. Currently is from a university in the Department of Anthropology and Developmental Studies. He is a global transformational leader and a former chief programs and executive officer. He is an expert in development and child protection, and he has served at various boards as an advocate for science and community development. He is a visionary strategist committed to strong stakeholder relations and has a proven record in research, advocacy, fundraising, and so forth to continue. He has 22 years experience in international development, disaster and risk management and advocacy, and he's quite passionate about communities. And every time I engage with Dr. Maposa, I always talk about 3 elephants in the room: civil society, higher education, and government. And I think if you can just maybe paint a picture of this, we are here to address these elephants now. Thank you. And we've been given an indication to keep the time, Doc. Thank you.
Program Director, thank you very much. And I'll also stand on the protocol that has already been put forward and go straight into the discussion. Professor Akpome has already given us the problem statement, and my brother Piwe there has already followed up on that. My assignment is to really, answer this question of integrating communities in African universities so that we advance internationalization in a university like our own, UniZulu. What is essential as we begin this discussion is that we need to ensure that communities are an integral part of this process. We should not just be limited to global partnerships, be they bilateral or multilateral, but foster local relevance and mutual benefit. So the communities must benefit from this internationalization. So by actively engaging communities in research, cultural exchanges, and service level projects, the university can establish meaningful collaborations that simultaneously address the local needs. Tapping into indigenous knowledge is quite critical. Indigenous knowledge is not old-fashioned knowledge. It is real knowledge. A story is told about the people when disasters were happening in Haiti and in Indonesia. The local people saw the snails coming out of the water and they ran away because they saw something is going to happen. But those that were not staying there remained there and they were killed. So there is a lot of things that local people know that tell a story about what's going to happen, and we need to be careful about tapping into that knowledge. To achieve this, universities must adopt policies that make local engagement a cornerstone of the international strategy. So the strategy that is there for internationalization must be crafted together with the local communities so that it really becomes owned and ensure that this is done. So there's also digital inclusion. Digital communities need to access academic platforms. Communities must participate in these discussions. We are here, we are talking. Where are the community members? Are they able to participate? Are they able to sit here as well and add their voice into the subject that we are discussing? So I'll run through a few items here before I sit because of time. and the elephants that Mabalega is talking about. The first one is a balanced approach to internationalization. So we must balance this. So the University of Zululand must put at the center the communities which we serve, the communities that we live with, the values, the culture, the language, the symbols, the rituals are very, very critical to be central to all that we are doing in internationalization. Secondly, community-driven research for global impact. By incorporating indigenous knowledge, as I've already indicated, the sustainability of traditional medicine. There is a lot of traditional medicine that is being used and is very, very powerful. But we think that European medicine is the best. Climate change resiliency, and all this can be able to address our issues. Thirdly, ensuring that there's inclusivity and sustainability. Inclusivity is a very big term, but it simply means let's work together. Let's not discriminate each other because we are black, white, we are male, female, we are straight, gay, all those differences. We should be able to integrate them in our internationalizations. Then the fourth one is cultural exchange and mutual understanding. Cultural exchange programs should be designed to foster meaningful interaction between local and international students. It should not be a one-way traffic where we see international students as in quotes from Europe coming into our country, but we also need to see ours also going outside. I had the privilege and experience in working at the Academy of Science of South Africa to draw scholarships that will encourage students from South Africa to go into African countries. And I'll tell you my experience is that when we put them out and we ask for applications, only 5 students apply to go to Makerere, to go to Eswatini, to go to Zimbabwe and study. But the next month, we put out an advertisement for Germany, for example, and 3,000 people apply. And that's my experience, and it's an elephant in the house. So we need to be bridging, number 5, bridging the local and global gap in the digital device. I've touched it already, that the digital device is separating us. So how do we then use virtual learning opportunities to connect our local students with communities and global conversations that are happening right now? And also those 3 pillars, the academia, government, media, working together to ensure that the internationalization works well. So universities must be catalysts for local development. In other words, universities must act as drivers of community development by facilitating international students, local researchers, and community members working together. Last week, we had a conference as the Anthropology and Development Studies department, and we invited the Kwamkwanazi local traditional leadership to come and talk to us. And when they came in, they talked to us about how researchers should enter and exit communities. And they were talking about simple things like respect, going back to give reports. But one thing that they spoke about is that we need to be going to the communities and saying, this is what the study has said, and this is what we need to be doing to improve the communities where we live. And finally, building global networks from local roots. Some global networks that have been built, as Professor Apome has said, started in the UN. Why don't we start building global networks from the grassroots? Some of these NGOs, some of these CBOs, some of these organizations that we start from grassroots, how does internationalization grow them so that they become bigger networks that come from KwaZangezwa, that come from Mhlawuyalingana, that come from Umtuba. And I like to put a call of action as I end, Program Director. African universities like the University of Zululand must adopt community-centric approaches to internationalization. Policies should ensure that local relevance is upheld while promoting global engagement, research, cultural exchange, service learning, innovation hubs should play an active role in the communities, making them stakeholders or shareholders of what the university is doing in its internationalization journey. So therefore, I encourage the university to foster partnerships that harness the strength of local communities so as we promote sustainable development and provide opportunities for shared learning. I rest my case and I wait for questions.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc, for that passionate contribution. Our last speaker for this panel discussion is Dr. P.N. Khumalo. She is from the Faculty of Education in the department at the University of Zululand, and she has a PhD in curriculum studies, and she's actually developing a niche in African philosophies and education, and she's actually quite passionate about promoting student success. So she's here for you, and she's passionate about you. Can you make your way to the podium, Doc? And please also have been reminded about the issue of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Good afternoon, students, colleagues, all protocol observed. I think the previous speakers have covered everything. My focus will be on what Prof. Akpome talked about, that the university is a knowledge creation. It won't help us to go back and repeat what the previous speakers has already alluded to. How do we integrate community as universities in our, what is it? How do we integrate a university in our internationalization? We are Africans. The program director said, I have developed a niche in terms of African philosophies. The way we teach students is informed by how, as Africans, we do things. I'm one person who is a strong believer and who advocates for Ubuntu as one of my teaching philosophies. What it means as Africans, I am because we are, and it's. So I believe that every student, any member of the community can succeed if she is afforded the opportunity and created an enabling environment. So it means our university should create an enabling environment for our communities to thrive by using this philosophy, which I have already alluded to, philosophy of Ubuntu. As African, you cannot have your own thing, my thing, I, myself, and I. Now, that is a culture which is actually taking shape within our generation and in your generation, actually. Even when we are assigning you a group work, you will find some students complaining, we don't like doing group works, Tina. That's selfishness. Sometimes I ask my student, is it you who is speaking, talking, or is it selfishness? Which spirit is talking? Which one? Selfishness, why? Because you don't want to get other students to get the marks that you are going to get to. Because when you are thinking of yourself. So, our university, the fact that it is located in KZN and Guadangezwa, that is a heritage on its own. It's an heritage. For me, not because I studied in this university, this is one of the best universities where you can unleash your potential. Even as an academic, that is the university. You saw our director in the VC's office. Professor Mashia, she studied in this university. She got her PhD in this university, actually all her degrees in this university. Now she comes back, she's working in this university, pursuing the vision of internationalization. So, colleagues, students, we must internalize it. We must breed the fact that this is our university, this is our community. As a university, it's not unfortunate that we are located in one of the rural universities. The fact that we are located in this environment, it means we are the only university which has potential and capability of improving people's lives. We are the only university, I'm being honest with you. So we must tap into that context. Don't perceive University of Zululand as a rural university where you are coming to study your degree, and then after 4 years you parade on the stage and then you are leaving the university. What is it? What is your take home? What is it that you have learned? What skills? Soft skills that you have acquired in this university. So internationalization and the integration of the community. If I'm a teacher educator, teachers can go to the community like the previous speaker said, that we need to integrate, to involve the community in order to work, collaborate in collaboration with the members of the community. How come that as a foundation phase teacher, you can't just go and engage the school principal, the SMT, and say, I have observed that learners are struggling to write. Research has already revealed that learners in the foundation phase, they can't write, most of them. There's a problem of literacy. We had enough now, Prof. Akpome, about what researchers say. What are we doing about those findings which are revealed by the research? We don't have to be in possession of a B.Ed or any other degree that is offered in this university. The passion, where is Ubuntu? Would you like your nephew, your nieces, would you like it when they struggle to write? Would you enjoy and say, ha, 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 they can't write, I can write? What is it that you are doing within the community? You can even do what we call service, maybe service learning. You can go to the community and spend 1 hour, at least 1 hour, to assist learners with learning difficulties. I will focus more into my discipline because I am not conversant with other discipline, but I'm making an example with teacher educators. When are you going to find time to engage the SGB members? Because those are the members of the community. We understand that parents are working, but you can engage parents through SGB to say, this is what the research has revealed. This is how we avail ourselves to help in terms of how learners are struggling. Literacy. This is how we are going to capacitate learners in terms of literacy, in terms of numeracy. Learners are underperforming. Internationally, we are at the bottom in terms of literacy and numeracy. But we are having potential graduates who are capable, who got 90s. What 90s means if it's not going to benefit anyone? Remember that we are talking about African philosophy, how we perceive things. Are we going to be the only one who are successful? Remember that Prof. Akpome talked about university as knowledge creation. To what extent are you prepared to sacrifice to help learners, to help the members of the community? If you are doing agriculture, they will tell you how to plow maize meal, but with your knowledge as a university student who is aspired to create knowledge, to support the community. What is it that you are doing to help the co-opt within the Dangezwa area to understand better what else, what other methods they can use to plow maize meal? So knowledge creation, good students, colleagues, doesn't mean that you are a PhD holder or that means nothing. You understand? People are more concerned about their needs. Are you meeting the needs of the community? Yeah. Or you want the community to away? Eh? How come we got now? Like PhD holder. Is that what you want? Or you want to be known as someone who's in possession of the spirit of Ubuntu? When people relate with you, they will know what our problems are solved. Yeah. This is how I conceptualize life. When whoever you touch it upon must know what I'm coming with my problem. Professor Colin will solve my problem. Every time when they see you, they know what you will solve what? The problem. So in this university, as we are advantageously located, we better use the environment to our benefit. Actually, from where I am, whenever I think of Zululand students, I think of Zululand students as the students who are blessed more than any other student. Because in this environment, there's nothing that you won't be able to harness your skills. By the virtue of our location and culture, we know what to do and at what time. We are diverse. And if I may be honest with you, good students, there are people who aspire to study in this university because of the location and because of how things are done. It's just that phela ena mawusenda wena uvela ungaboni. Awuboni ukuthi kwakhuma lokhu kumnandi, ubona lapha kwaMdletshe kumnandi until uzofika kwaMdletshe ubona imfene yakhona. And then you see ukuthi haya kumnandi lapha. Kumnandi la. So for community will benefit from us. And collaboration will also enhance our, it also boosts academic quality. But it should start with us, within our environment, whereby we empower the community. Before we think of what? Collaboration. Collaboration is an add-on bonus, Professor Akpom. For me, I would say, within ourselves, let no hunger prevail amongst us. Then we can talk about collaboration. Within ourselves, let us use our environment to empower ourselves. Let us use our environment to harness our skills, even the soft skills. In conclusion, I would say, even the community we are located in, they will acquire soft skills. They will learn respect. They will learn tolerance from us. UNIZulu students are the most tolerant students. Sometimes there is no water. So it means you are in possession of good, exceptional soft skills. Do you understand? So those soft skills will also transfer them to the local communities. If you plow maize meal today, you are not going to what? To get it tomorrow. You are going to be patient and wait. Why? Because you know what you're talking about. So for me, internalization is not the key. For me, start here locally, then extend your research. But after you have solved the problem within your environment. Thank you.
Ihlombe.
Thank you so much, Doc, for those teachings. I think as UniZulu students, we should really take pride of our institution and not fall trap of this narrative that is being perpetuated on social media, right? You should take pride of this. We are developing strong characters here. Those who are resilient, who are creative, who are empathetic, who are respectful, they come from this institution, and you should take pride and be proud of yourself that you improvise even in the most challenging situations, but you still come out strong. So that takes a lot, and you should be proud of yourselves. I would like to now call upon the Consulate General of India. We know they have been waiting for a while, and we apologize. We were supposed to take questions, but because of time and just respecting them, we are open for engagements, and our panelists here are open. Email, some of them are here, go to their office. They are always just willing to share with you students. So please please don't take offense. We respect your voice, but because of interest of time, and there's still a lot that will happen. So let's welcome the Consulate General of India for entertainment, and then after them, then we would like to call Ingoma there at the top to also give us entertainment for the day. Over to you, Consulate of India.
Yeah. I think so. But you're Indian.
Sorry, are you one group with them? The Consulate of India? You're one group. Okay. Oh, thank you. Round of applause for my partner, Kenya of India. Wow, thank you so much. Ingoma, Aisha Ingoma, Islanganetro. ingoma sisalindile kusenomfutho kwenzakalani? Ingoma. Okay.
Uma benção chaia. Uma benção chaia. Sawubona malamba. screen manje. Bese ngizoyikhipha leya ngisale ne-microphone yale laptop ngibone ukuthi iya-detecta yini. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Reformer. Okay, guys. Let's bring this to the end, almost the end of our program. In yourself moving forward. And basically just answering the question. Okay, here's the gentleman number 2. So 1, 2, and then last one. Yes, the lady there at the back. Oh, thank you, thank you. You know, part of the Gender 63 is to, you know, advocate for women. So, and Auntie, I know my friend Auntie here. Okay, let's go. You, yeah, and then the back, and then the lady at the back. Yes, you can go.
Sanibonani, igama Mfundisi Wakhanyisa. Mine is to appreciate this kind of a program. Sibonge ku Professor Mashia for this gathering. It's now sometimes in moving forward, we'd like to have more of such engagement where we'll engage, because in these past 3 days I've learned a lot of what it means to be an African, what it means to be a person that loves his or her identity. I think also if we not limit this to gatherings, I think also we should take this into our classroom. Because imagine if in these past 3 days I have learned so much. If this is infused within our content that we learn in classroom, there's so much that we are going to achieve. There's so much that we are going to go forward in realizing the Africa that we want. Because the Africa that we want will not get the Africa that we want if we are not aware of what kind of Africa do we want.
Wow, thank you so much. And I think let's just give him a round of applause. And I think Prof. Matria, Mr. Mdeta, when they leave here, they'll be happy to know that at least, you know, with this concept and this event, we have such comments which are truly inspirational and well received. Yes, you can go there at the back. Maybe just stand, tell us who you are, which department you're from, and then pose a question or a comment.
That's skills from the Department of Law. Prof. Agbogo, when you started, you mentioned that Americans are ignorant. I will argue the same for South Africans as well, that we are ignorant. Coming to the goals of the 2063 goal for Africa, I believe that to some extent it is a rhetoric from our African leaders, because currently what is SADC doing in respect of Eswatini, where Mswati is slaughtering his people? What is SADC doing in respect of Zimbabwe, the situation in Zimbabwe? But the goals they are speaking about, peace and security for Africa. Where is peace in Eswatini? Again, I would like to criticize scholars, especially academics. When we speak about the United Africa, you only leave that topic to politicians. You are scared to speak about the United Africa because you are scared to be persecuted by the public at large. Just like some politicians are persecuted when they speak of a United Africa. Why are we scared to speak of a United Africa? Prof. Agogo, as a brilliant scholar you are, you can even establish your own YouTube channel. You are living in a digital age. I'm glad that on Monday, Dr. Mzileni was here. I've seen Dr. Mzileni on YouTube speaking about these kinds of things. Because we see the need for United Africa, but we are not speaking enough about it to find expression on the ground, to find expression amongst ourselves. Because one simple example, the issue of Miss S.A. Chidima, who was brutally dragged and trolled on Twitter just recently by us, amongst ourselves here, by some of us, but was speaking of a United Africa. We're speaking of the colonial love. Will not realize that if Prof. Agogo, we do not take the stand as academics and speak about United Africa and do not leave it to just politicians. And lastly, I would like to criticize what Mr. Iwani just said with regards to Frantz Fanon. It's not true. What you have just uttered about Frantz Fanon is not true. Frantz Fanon was colonized just like all of us here. Frantz Fanon knows about the race, being oppressed based on race, just like all of us here. Frantz Fanon, just because he was not African originally, does not mean it does not know anything about being black and about being oppressed. Because where Frantz Fanon was born, it is a Caribbean, I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's a Martinique Caribbean, which was colonized by France. So Frantz Fanon was colonized. He was speaking in a position of a black person who was colonized and oppressed. I'd like to thank you.
Thank you for those exceptional. That was truly well received, and we agree with you that these conversations should not end here. And one thing I've also noticed over the past 2 days is the hunger from our students. There's a hunger to learn. There's a hunger for knowledge, and once we reciprocate that as in academia, and we can truly see these inspirational topics. There's our lady there at the back. Can we also give her a chance to say her contribution? Yeah, the lady there with the duke. Yes. If you can just stand, my lady, so we can see you. Thank you.
My name is Arafa Hassan, and I'm from East Africa, and I speak Kiswahili. So what I can say is that if I can just speak my language right now, I know most of you would love or find it peculiar. And also, if I would make any mistakes in English, it would also be funny. So how can we speak about decolonization if we don't stay true to what is African and indigenous, and also know the difference between what was brought in by the colonizers? Because English is not African, but it's what people want to be perfected. They want English to be perfected, but that was brought in by colonizers.
Thank you. Mr. Kiwani, would you like to respond to what was raised earlier? Or what? Can we give a chance? Okay. No, okay. So my panelists have told me that they received your comments, and now I'd like to call on Mr. Mdletshe to close for us. We've heard the cry of Uhlelo 15. So okay, we have time for last question. No, we've exhausted. I know. Okay. Sekulambekile. Okay. No, you guys have been an incredible audience today. Just give yourselves one last round of applause. Thank you. So I'd like to call on Mr. Mdletshe, the manager of the office, to please close for us and give us a way forward.
The way forward. No, thank you very much, Miss Lolwazi Mabaleka, for driving this program. I think you've kept the audience engaged, and they were very excited. Thank you very much. I will try to be very short because of time. First and foremost, to Prof. Mudose and the team, the executive, for giving us the platform to organize such a good event, and to Prof. Mashia there for making sure that this event is possible. She coordinated, she gave the support, she has done everything. Thank you very much, Prof. Also, very quickly to Dr. Ebuho Ngokazi for opening for us, and we had our one of our colleagues from Sweden, Miss Helen Bachman-Cartel. She graced the event, and she supported us, and she gave a message of support. The president made sure that everything here is working, and there's a program of the stomach that will be Prof. Unathi Kolanisi. Thank you very much. The Consulate General of India for making sure that we are kept entertained, and of course our guest speaker, Prof. Akpome, the panelist, Mr. Anatipiwan, Dr. Stanley Mapos, Dr. Robert Kumar, and then Dr. Mpixi Made. Thank you very much for guiding us. And not forgetting our poet, Sianda Imbongi and Ingoma. I think they were very good. They kept us engaged. And just very briefly, I think the day one was very informative. I think it gave us the direction, but also it made us to reflect. And in terms of the day two, which was student orientated, I think students were very good. And thanks for making sure that you engaged the panelists yesterday. And of course, day three is cultural orientated, which I think it made us to remember who we are and making sure that we embrace our identity as South African and as African generally, and we make sure that what comes from the African continent, indeed, we are taking it out to the world, but we're taking it out with the respect and dignity it deserves. So thanks very much for that. And for the audience, it was not going to be possible if you didn't sacrifice your time and make sure that you attend. But I hope that you've learned something, and I hope that we are grooming the scholars, the scholars that will make sure that this continent is not known as the dark continent, but this continent will shape the ideas, will shape the information going forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, guys, so you guys will be catered here. Okay, and then our guest speakers just make it to the lounge here at the back. Yeah. Until next time. Oh, there's a program, Isai. Where's the program director? Like just to give a bit of a direction of this second program. After taking and all of that. No, after singing the yeah, it's your time now.
Sanborn.